Good morning, good morning, and welcome to All for Success with an X. Okay, the X is for other things that might come up in the topics of conversation. So, the All for Success opening, of course, is good day, good day, good day. So, I would like to say thanks to all of you who've had an opportunity to sign in. And if you bear with me a minute or two while I get myself together and gather my wits, I promise again, as always, that I'm not going to keep you too long in the chat world so that you don't miss doing all of your morning errands for this Saturday morning, and that we would just have a little bit of a chit chat. So, thank you all for coming. Feel free to leave comments below, and I would love to hear from you and get your thoughts on all things Sussex supporting. And I hope you enjoy some of the things that I chat about today, and I would love to get your feedback. So, we're definitely all into that. And so I welcome all of you here. Um, Also, since we're getting started, this is the time to get up and get your coffee and everything ready. Get yourself a few things to drink. I'm having my coffee this morning, and for Christmas, my daughter got an espresso machine. So I'd like to let you all know that we've been testing that out, and it's been fun. So hopefully I'll get to have another cup of espresso later today if I start to feel a little sluggish. Let's see, what have I got here in my notes? So get your coffee ready and sit down if you can, or if instead you're doing something like physical exercise, um, put your headsets on and get yourself on the treadmill or in your yoga stance or whatever, if that's available to you, or whatever stretching that you might be doing. Then perhaps by the time you do it through this chat, you'll have that workout in and accounted for this weekend. All right, so let's hope we can do that. All right, folks. So hang on a second. I'm going to get my coffee, and then I'm going to set up for the slides that I have for today, and then we're going to get started. All right. And remember, today, my topic, at least the way I'm going to head to this topic, I'm looking at 2024, and we're going to watch, I'm hoping, the fall of the UK tabloid media. For me, that would be worth seeing. Just watching the UK tabloid media crumble into pieces, especially after the win of Harry's court case. And we would love to see them totally come apart. And at least, if nothing else, that they fall by the wayside and be placed in the same category as our tabloid media here in the United States, which is on the shelf at the grocery store as you check out. And there's always a corner article talking about a spotting of Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, and perhaps a person or two that was abducted by aliens, and talking about being probed. That's really where we would like the UK tabloid media to exist as well, rather than in the spot of the mainstream thought leadership of the UK people. Okay? All right, let me get my slides together. Hang on a second. All right. And I would like to say to everybody, that's always my salute. That's some of my slide work from, I believe, the holidays. But anyway, we're going to back up here. Let me get back to the start. All right. All right. So, as I said, let's remember that we encourage each other to stay fit if we can. And it's the beginning of the year, folks. So it's time to break out all those New Year's resolutions about staying fit, getting some exercise in, and trying to be healthier than you were last year. Okay. So if you're making progress on that front, let's keep that in mind. And everyone who has done some type of workout over the week, put in the comment section what you've been doing. I'm going to place down here that I did continue my walk. Yes, I did. Um, I did my walks. I think it was 2 days a week, and um, since I was doing it twice weekly, I was able to get in about. I'm gonna just say about 1 mile each day. Okay. And I have to admit that I did not go to the gym yesterday. So, and that is because I had a slight headache while I was out and about, and I don't know, I just had this dried out, kind of dehydrated feeling. So I kind of put it off and I went to sleep a little early. So please excuse me for that, but I promise you I'm going to get back in there. Okay. So you guys put in the comment section, if you can, all of your workout um, progress, especially if you're walking or treadmill or biking. All right. You got to keep me motivated, okay? If you don't keep me motivated, what am I going to do? All right. So, since 2024 is opening up, and I know if any of you are in and around the YouTube verse, like I am, or if you're here and there in the YouTube space, we definitely are going to give a shout out, of course, to Miss Doria Ragland. Why? Because she's the mother of our Sussex family. She seems to be the one that has maintained her composure and her position throughout all of the nonsense that has been going on over the past, believe it or not, folks, 4 years. I mean, this has been going on quite a while. Um, so Ms. Ragland is the type of individual that, like I said before, I sort of see myself as a kindred spirit. Why? Of course, because we are mothers of adult children. And so, as a parent of adult children, you are watching them navigate through the world. You see some of the challenges that they are being um, faced with, and above all, you want to support and you want to see your children succeed. Now, that is, of course, if you are a standard parent. Most parents want to see their children succeed, right? They want to see their kids do well. Now, the weird thing about that, and I have to put this out there, and you all can tell me how you feel about this thought, that there are people who become parents. And once they become parents, it is almost as if they don't really see the job the way that others of us may see it. And I have to put that in my own lap. Becoming a parent, I was probably 25 when my first daughter was born. I didn't have I only had an idea of what parenting was from that of the child's perspective. So, what I thought being a parent was going to be was from where I sat looking at what my mom was doing and how she was conducting herself until, of course, my father died early. But the point being, there are other people who do not have the same mentality of parenting that you may have. My thought process has always been I wanted to teach my children what I could teach them, pass on to them what I could pass on to them, and then watch them, hopefully, build upon that foundation to whatever height they felt they could reach. Now, that is sometimes a very novel concept. In other words, I only tease my children about um, them doing things for me. I mean, they can, of course, and children, they will. But I sort of tease them about the process where I had children so that I could live off of them, right? That is actually not how I operate. But it was always funny to me to make that joke to my kids by saying things, well, I hope you get rich because I intend to live off of you. But you have to understand that in our way of operating here, there are many people who actually do that on purpose. That in fact, That is their method of operation. That is, in fact, how they intend to have their world operate. Now, I do understand that in some cultures, that is more of a traditional stance, that the children that the families have children and they do expect their children to make sure that they are taken care of in their old age. That is no problem. I have no issue with that concept, because that's a very, from our point of view here in the US, that's a very Eastern concept and a very old world concept, that the children are going to make sure that you are provided for in your elder years, that you're taken care of. Now, here in the West, right, UK, Western civilizations included, there is an operation, or I would say a standard way of operating, that many people become elderly. Their parents age into situations where they cannot take care of themselves. And we have an entire industry based upon having your elder parents taken care of by someone else. So we have an industry of what they call elderly homes, or home health care facilities, and all of these things that are there to support the elderly parents because their children are not able to do that. And that is, of course, because of the way we live and work here in the West. Most of us are not afforded the opportunity to have the training to take care of someone who is elderly and needs care, constant supervision. We're not trained for it. We generally aren't um, taught to have the proper temperament to watch over people who are in need of severe care, right? And I'm not talking about like people who need hospitalization. That's different. That, of course, is something that you should not try to do if you are not trained to do that. But our culture is not one that basically affords your elderly parents to live with you, to remain in your household, or to participate with your lifestyle as you have become an adult and also taking care of maybe younger children. Now, of course, in the old world, that was common, right? You had three generations living in one household. The elderly parents were generally there. They may have looked after the younger kids if they could. Um, those who could go out and work did, and then the other people in the family took care of the household. So we have moved very far away from that model, right? And so that is what makes our society one in which we have, in a sense, created built-in struggles, right? We have devised a situation that makes it even harder for each of us. So that being said, um, and you know what? I'd always laugh about people saying that line, that being said. But anyway, I always laugh about that. But what I'm getting at is when you look at a parent like Ms. Doria Ragland, you probably are seeing someone who has a mentality that I am going to do what I can for my children, and I want to see my children succeed beyond what I did. That's a general observation of how I see her to behave. And so I am somewhat of a kindred spirit in that method of thinking. We want you to do well. Okay, now we go to the flip side. The Let's talk about the in-laws over there, right? So from the royal family mentality, birth of privilege, you coming into that family, you already owe them, right? As far as they're concerned, they're waiting for you to provide something for them. And that is a completely different mentality of operation. And so you are challenged by the way they see the world and by the way they exist in it. And of course, those of you who follow the Sussex family fairly well, you realize that The father of Meghan Markle, Mr. Tom Markle, appears to suffer from that same condition. He seems to be in this condition that whatever his children are doing, have done, or how wherever they are, that he is somehow due some sort of payment or some sort of uplift from what they are and who they are. And that is a very different mentality of parenting. Okay. So here's what I wanted to say. And I'm going to go repeat a couple of slides that you all may have seen in the past. Listen, the battle that Harry and Meghan are having with the royal family slash UK tabloid media, that whole infrastructure, that entire system, that battle that they are having, oh, it's not over. You know, understand that if they can maintain their method of attack and lying for 4 years, and it's a 1,000-year-old institution, believe it, they can maintain their stance forever. Okay. And so many of us, I'm sure, were hoping for the UK royal family and hoping that the tabloids would somehow reach an epiphany and start to become nice people or apologize. I tell you what, I don't expect that. I really don't. Maybe that could happen, but it is an amazing thing that they are dealing with. So we will have to see if they are able in any way to attempt to fight back, or if there is any type of acknowledgement of whatever you want to consider these negative things that were produced to follow and haunt the Sussex family, because that machine has been in place for quite a while. So just be aware that this battle is not over. And being a parent myself, um, we have to encourage our young people that, yes, we know you fight a very different battle than we did. And we know that you fight in a very different manner, but understand the fight itself continues. Just be aware of that. So we want to stay positive and we want to stay supportive of this family and the work that they're doing, because it does appear that they are trying to do good work. So they're going to also be met with a lot of difficult times, right? It's hard to get over all of the things that you're dealing with, and it is stressful. And so we always say, for those of us who are, I don't know, maybe a little bit more church doctrinated, I like to refer people to the fact that, you know, as long as you do good and you stay as much in the good work that you can try to keep these negative aspirations at bay, but that it is not a one and done situation. You just have to stay on that battle. And as far as this family is concerned, and just the world in general, your perspective of what you're seeing in the world in general, we have to stay vigilant. You cannot ever say, well, we've solved that problem and it's over. You can't do that, because it is a continuous battle, and just be aware that it does not end. So I'm referring here in this slide to some of the chapters that might help when you feel down, or you feel like, you know what, I've just had to deal with this so long, I cannot get over it. But stay strong, because you can. And I'm hoping that the Sussex family feels the same. Okay, now back to the US and its normal shenanigans. Okay, guys, I know it's early in this year. I'm just getting started. I'm trying to learn a little bit more about how to navigate this YouTube environment. I'm improving slowly. I'm getting my slides at least working. And if you notice, folks, I even have a background. Wow, I'm learning, right? And I am so excited to let you know that I'm still putting through some of my favorite slides. I love the slides of Harry when he was little. And it was funny when I see these pictures because you think that they might have um, a little bit of a forward leaning, what is it, preview of who the person may become. And I think about that all the time when I'm looking at younger children. All right, so now for the fun stuff. Okay, now remember, supporting the Sussex, that's not gonna be something that's a showstopper. But I do need to switch off a little bit and exit just for a moment or two into what has been happening early this year. I don't know if my listeners out there are familiar with a comedian named Cat Williams. Please let me know. Put a 1 in the chat if you know or you are aware of who the comedian Cat Williams is. Please just drop a 1 in the chat if you are aware of who he is. Okay, I want to know if you all know who Cat Williams is. Okay? I really do hope you do. Cat Williams is almost in the same, I would say, I'm going to say same generation-ish again as myself. He would have children that are adults as well. He is a very well-known comedian. And as a well-known comedian, he is very controversial, and he always has been. He's typically situationally funny. And he has been a stand-up for quite a long time. I mean, actually for as long as I can remember. Now, what I have here is a compilation of members who are all these other comedians who are very famous now, and many of them you might recognize. In this photo, I have Cat Williams is up there top center, and then you have Steve Harvey, and most people are aware of Steve Harvey because he's on numerous game shows. You have Cedric the Entertainer, who is fairly well known. He's been in a couple of movies here and there. And he's generally a funny guy, kind of like in a family sort of way. And I believe he's on a current sitcom now that is about a neighbor moving in next to him. And so it's kind of the interplay of him in the neighborhood. And it's somewhat, of course, racially centric, so they make jokes about whether the person is of what race or this race and how they blend into the neighborhood. So that's Cedric the Entertainer. And then, of course, at the bottom there, we have Dave Chappelle. Yeah, I'm sure most people are aware of Dave Chappelle because he stays in the news due to saying things about different communities that, of course, argue that he shouldn't say the things that he is saying. And then there's D.L. Hughley, who, of course, is probably not so prominent in the mainstream. He generally has a very laid-back personality. And then, of course, there's the young lady, Tiffany Haddish, who, over the past few years, appeared in a couple of movies, started doing stand-up, works with Kevin Hart. And she was an up-and-coming feature. I would say her career kind of got off to a bounce maybe about 4 years ago, but she's recently been having some issues with things like being a party to some film or some commercials or some video clips that contain children in some questionable content. So, all right, there's your background, right? So I have to also point out my little story and and how I'm involved or not involved in this particular scenario. So for those of you who are aware or were paying attention over the last 48 hours, the prominent comedian Cat Williams was invited to a YouTube, yes, YouTube, just like mine, podcast. And the podcast is hosted by a man who was a pro football player some time ago. They call him Shay Shay, but his name is Shannon. And he used to be on ESPN. And on ESPN, the sports network, he was always talking about different, they would just critique different athletes. Well, now he does a podcast broadcast where he interviews, people of choice. And he has had other comedians on, and he's talked to them about what they did and how they got into their careers, and blase, blase, right? Which seems fairly reasonable. Well, the issue is in this chat, talking to these other comedians, Cedric the Entertainer, for example, and he talked to, I think it's Michael, and I cannot remember his last name, is another comedian. Um, Other actors like Ludacris, different people like this. These people have made various statements to Shannon that the comedian Cat Williams completely and totally took offense. Okay. The comedian Cat Williams proposed that most of those folks who came on and talked to him previously in the comedy arena made statements that were not true. And I have to tell you, people, I have to. You cannot believe Cat Williams was like a person on fire. He immediately just debunked and ran through from top to bottom other comedians. He called them liars. He pointed out where they had told things and told stories about things that had happened that he said did not happen the way that they said. And many of these conversations involved material that is used in stand-up comedy, because he spoke about the fact that many of these folks used material from other people after they got famous, that they basically stole the material, or what we would call plagiarism, right? He went over the number of people who were in movies that he felt did not have talent, and he raked them over the coals. It was horrifying. And at the same time, hysterical. I could not stop laughing because I need you all to understand my perspective is I watched this era of comedians come into popularity. I get the opportunity to brag about being at various Def Comedy Jam arena, what I call auditoriums, where they actually had the comedy shows. So I was there in the 90s when all of these comedians were beginning their careers as they were starting to move up the line. And it was phenomenal because one of the major personalities that I saw, and again, like I said, this is my moment to brag, was Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac appeared on stage in an auditorium, and I was there. This was in the 90s, and he was hilarious. If you like comedy, okay, if you like comedy, he was one of the best. So I watched all of these people as their careers were taking off. And in the 90s, that's when shows like In Living Color had come on the scene. And those shows were featuring comedy at a level that was way up there. It was getting, that was beginning to compete with the level and caliber of the Saturday Night Lives. But In Living Color was phenomenal because it featured so many comedians of color. It's fantastic. So Cat Williams just, I mean, he went through and just basically blanketed the entire interview with what he feels was his truth. And he exposed, if you want to use the term exposed, but he highlighted what the actual personalities and character was of all of these other comedians. So I hope you all get an opportunity to at least watch some of the clips. If you can, at least check out some of the clips and some of the things that he's saying, not to keep stirring the pot, but just to understand the level of commentary that he had about various individuals and the way that they have behaved in the past. And the interesting thing is how they had, in the past, painted Cat Williams. For example, overall, by the time Cat Williams has had up and downs in his career, good times and bad times, wins and losses, there was a period of time where he was being arrested. Every time you open up the newspaper, there was a picture of him being arrested for something. He was generally being charged for drug use or being drunk or things like that, or getting in a fight with someone. He has numerous headlines and stories that were in the newspaper like this. So you wonder, why was I telling this story? Well, just like Harry and Meghan, let's say, the character Cat Williams, and here in this slide you see him dressed as Money Mike, because that character was extremely popular in the movie Fridays. Okay. But at the time that this was initially done, and he played this character, Money Mike, he was struggling. And it was wonderful because in the interview he explained the extent of where he was in his life. He's had a very interesting struggle. But my point is, and here's where I'm drawing the parallel. For this entire, maybe let's say since the 1990s is when they were getting started. So I'm going to say for the past 25 years, like after Fridays, somewhere after the Fridays series or the Ice Cube production were such a hit with Ice Cube and Chris Tucker. Not long after that, Cat Williams was associated with some of the most notorious names in comedy or in hip hop. He was always associated with Suge Knight, who is a notorious character in the hip hop scene. These are people who did go to jail, who were in fights, who were known to be uh, shooting at other people or perhaps involved in gang-related activities. And this is how Cat Williams was painted for about 25 years. But the interesting situation is that in the past 48 hours, he spoke out absolutely against all of the things that have been said about him. And he, in a sense, debunked or he gave opposition to many of the things that had been said about him. He spoke in such a manner that people are now able to actually look it up, compare the information. And when he said, you all use the term, they brought receipts. In his case, everything was basically televised. So what he said people did and how he said they operated, we can actually see it in clips and in video. And it's looking very much like Cat Williams was being truthful. And so his depiction and his I would say description of how other people have been behaving, whether they were doing things in the background that caused other people problems, or if they were, I'm going to say, secretly presenting themselves as friendly, but at the same time sabotaging other comedians. Cat Williams basically put a spotlight on all of that. That is what the Sussex family is dealing with right now. They are basically in the same type of twist and bind that Cat Williams found himself in over these past 25 years. And I found it interesting, the parallels, because he was often accused of being on drugs. Well, he said, at least he stated, that he wasn't on drugs. But you have people that were saying things like he was looking, I'll never forget hearing this comment from a YouTuber. He was looking crazy. Such an empty sentence, such a vague statement. He was looking crazy. That, it was interesting. That description doesn't mean anything. You, the person who hears that, you're filling in the blanks. You know, um, I love the fact that the propaganda was saying things like, um, he seems to have lost his mind. And then they would show pictures of Cat Williams with his hair very much unkempt, like it would be just combed out or spread out all over the place so that it didn't look like it was well groomed. Now, here's the irony of that. Cat Williams was generally known for, I think the term we use, having perms and good hair, right? So he was always trying to be kind of slick looking. But pictures in the newspaper when he would get arrested or if he would get picked up, they always made him look like he was shell shocked and his hair was always roughed up, like he had been in a tussle. So the Sussex family is basically experiencing the Cat Williams syndrome. Every moment of every television tabloid media program in the UK for sure, and Australia is not far behind. They, every single day, have someone on, and the topic of conversation is Harry and Meghan are losing money. Harry and Meghan are failing in their businesses. Harry and Meghan are disliked by Hollywood. When, if those of you who are here in the US or you've been in Los Angeles, you understand there is no the Hollywood. It's a fake place, right? But the UK, I would assume, population, they may not get it. They may think that there is an entity called Hollywood that either gives you the thumb up or the thumbs down, right? They don't understand that those are their businesses. And you, the individual, you operate within that business. But that is what they're saying on UK media TV, that Harry and Meghan are disliked. Harry and Meghan are hated. No one likes them. They don't have any money. They're going broke. How is he going broke? What does that mean? What are you saying? And what does that have to do with your UK tabloid show? Why would that be the topic of your show? Okay. Well, Cat Williams is pretty clear, right? He is basically saying that people who have or obtain power or obtain a certain amount of influence, that it is in their benefit to continuously steal from others because they obviously cannot create anything of their own, right? And to put down those who are actually doing real work. And that is exactly how we see the Sussex family, right? They really want to do real things. They want to have an impact in the real world. They want to actually do good things for people. Whereas in the UK tabloid world and the political world, and let's not forget, the royal family itself, their main objective is to look like they are doing things, to appear as if they are taking actions. And that is why a person like Meghan was an absolute threat. She was a threat because when she came in the door, she came in with the ability to do in reality what they had been pretending to do all of this time. And that was threatening, dangerous, right? It's extremely dangerous to know that these people have been sitting on more than $100 million a year. And yet, here in your country, there are concepts like baby banks where someone has to come and get food, clothing, and diapers for babies because you can't afford to get it. Right? Now you are a royal entity, but you're going to go and show how you help out at a baby bank? You know, the idea, the concept is absurd, but that is what they were doing, right? This is who they are. And the UK tabloid media's only purpose is to support that structure. That structure is the structure that maintains the UK tabloid media, right? That's why we don't have it 100% here. But we have something similar, right? We have a similar environment where our larger media entities, they do try to set the storyline for you, right? So we have the larger media entities. You have the CNNs, the Fox News, the MSNBCs. These are all media empires, and their job is to set the structure and the story for you. Okay? And then you are supposed to follow their story, right? And you're not supposed to do too much more digging on your own. And you're supposed to let your feelings about the story, how you feel about it, is supposed to guide you, right? So that's why we have to be very cautious and we must stay vigilant because there is so much of that happening. But I want you to know over the past 48 hours, Cat Williams has definitely brought to a screeching halt that machine as it has been running against him. So what we're going to do is we're going to be looking forward, and Harry continues to have his lawsuits out there. We're going to see how much more of an impact they have. I don't expect anything extraordinary to change in the UK. They're pretty much locked into their paying positions. But if they do have a hand change, a changeover, or a handover in their major government, it is very possible that we in the rest of the world may see things trickle out a little bit differently. Because there are a number of people in the UK world that have been affected negatively by the shenanigans of the UK tabloid media. So we finally, over the year, we've seen several of these people disappear out of the woodwork. And I'm not sure if Piers Morgan will take a hit because I know he is not the type of person that will lay down on his own. But him as a personality carrying the most negative content possible and saying the most negative things he can think of about Meghan and Harry. Like Cat Williams, right? Like the story of Cat Williams, it leads me to start thinking that perhaps your interaction with Meghan Markle, you may have given up more secrets than you should have. And now you are afraid of what might come out into the clear light of day. So I think that's possibly what's happening here, that the royal family now, again, 48 hours later, we're watching them again close ranks and protect a possible involvement of Prince Andrew with the Jeffrey Epstein situation and the island of young girls. But we're watching the UK personalities, the royals, they're trying to just stay silent. They're trying to keep their head down. They're showing you online more pictures of Kate and her earrings and her gowns. They're showing you pictures of Charlotte and, playing ball. And, soon they're going to trot out the boys and show people, holding hands and tussling up hair. And they're doing all of that so that you don't pay very close attention to the fact that they have basically put a cape around Prince Andrew, who is leaning into criminal behavior. But remember, at all times, you are supposed to hate Meghan and Harry, right? And they have done nothing. But you're just supposed to hate them. I think the main reason, and I could be like whistling in the dark here, but I'm going to keep my money on the reason being that something probably is known. Something very atrocious is known. And they don't want anyone to talk about it. They don't want it out in the open because they probably do believe that whatever that particular thing is, that it would definitely bring an end to the monarchy as we know it. And just up north from them, the Queen of Denmark, out of the blue, resigned from being on the throne and turned it over to her husband. To her son. And so people are like holding their breath in the UK because they're wondering, is this a sign or a signal or a symptom of something yet to come? Right? And with that family in Denmark, oh my goodness, there was so much more. There was so much more scandalous behavior going on with the son. But yet, he is going to be crowned king. And and it seems to have brought his wife back into town, right, with the kids, because it appeared that she was about to walk out on him, or at least it looked like that, right? Because he was seen in pictures with some other socialite, I should say. That's how they would say it. He was, caught in some pictures with another beautiful woman. So all of a sudden, the queen, who has been on the throne for 50 some years, she decides to resign, make her son king, and now that wife is the queen, right? So you see things like that. Sometimes these chess pieces are moving around and we don't know why, but there's probably something behind it. And so this hate Meghan and Harry campaign, it's getting old even to the people who are still continuously hating Harry and Meghan. It's getting old. They're showing often some of the same regurgitated stories from 3 and 4 years ago. Right? So I want you all, I'm going to end on a good note. And I forgot to mention, I'm about to wrap it up anyway. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe here, okay? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And make sure that you comment below on how you're doing in your fitness journey. I need to know that. Make sure that if you have some other folks that you know that would be interested in talking about all things Sussex from the point of view of trying to support, uplift, and be positive, send them on my way, okay? Because this is fun. Now, I am going to probably start pulling down some of the more intricate details and research in specific areas, but I'm not as good at that as some of the folks I see on YouTube. Oh my gosh, I love some of the YouTubers when they cook, when they pull out receipts. I am so interested in what they are saying. But what we're going to do for the moment, continue to follow the roadmap in Spare for the names and the people who were involved in all of the things that were upending Meghan and Harry's movements while they were living in the UK, and then compare that to the roadmap in Endgame by Omid Scobie and the persons that he has mentioned and the different types of things that those people had to navigate in order to get the promotions and the jobs that they got. Okay, because many of these people are now government entities and politicians. So you need to almost write down on a chart the names of the people mentioned in both books, who they are and where they are, and how they shimmied their way into those positions, because they're still trying to hide from the damage that they have done. And often their names are not mentioned, but because of the way the squad operates, they can't hide. I love it. And so they will be brought out into the sunlight. And if I had the opportunity, if we had the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to see Harry and Meghan show up in Club Shay Shay, just like Cat Williams, I want you to know I would be there for it 100 times over, especially if they brought out a spotlight like Cat Williams, because it was hilarious. But for some people, it was devastating. Okay? And of course, I am absolutely loving Harry in his uniform of the day. I mean, I just enjoyed that. He's such a stellar man. But everyone, thank you again for your support. I am here for it. We are still going to continue to support them. Keep them in your prayers as everyone else, because I think 2024 is getting off to a quick start, and I don't see that it's going to slow down anytime soon. So enjoy the rest of your day. Get your errands run, and we're going to have a blast because, folks, this is the Harry and Meghan that we all see every day. Even while on every television show, someone is calling for him to divorce his wife and go back to the United Kingdom. And I would have to ask you, unless she's doing something really strange, why would he do that? You know, what in the world would make him want to do that? So we're going to definitely stay positive for these folks. And I hope to continue to see them thrive and prosper, just like the rest of us. And we need to do the same. I wanted to also note, I want to thank Joe Mays. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. Thank you. Oh, I see you put a number 1 in the chat. Yes, ma'am, because you understand who Cat Williams is. And it's fantastic. So, yeah, people who know who he is, it is fascinating. So let me back up a little bit. Let's see who else is in here today. We have Agnes Phillips, if I'm saying the name correctly. Thank you so much for joining me on All for Success. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, and I love this one too. Adorable. Well, that's lovely. See, that's some positive love coming my way. Thank you so much. We're going to continue to do as much as we can to show our support. And thank you. I'm going to try to keep my efforts going. Thank you, Adorable, as well. I appreciate that you're commenting because that interaction is fantastic. But definitely let us know if you have any comments or anything you want to talk about even in the future, and we're definitely going to get to that. Oh, LLAA, thank you also. And when you say an interesting 5 days, my goodness, they have packed more in these past 48 hours than wow, several years prior. I mean, you've got more Epstein talk, more Epstein Island information. You've got details flying out about a lot of these scandals that are in the parking lot. And then, of course, Cat Williams. So, hey, stay tuned because next week might be an even more exciting roller coaster ride. So, thank you guys all for coming. And I am going to begin to sign off here. And you guys, you keep up all the good work, okay? All the good work. Because it's wild out here in these YouTube streets.